welcome to another episode of the Speak Black Women podcast. I am super excited. For those of you who are just tuning in, and this is maybe your first or second episode, welcome. For those of you who've been rocking and rolling with me for the last year, you are officially family. And let me tell you something, you already know what I do. I go high, I go low, I go cities, states to find the very best Black women who are doing their thing, using their voice in every aspect of their business, their book, their brand, or even their career. And today literally is no other. Now, I'm going to tell you, right? Because, we're family and I always keep it, real with you. I had a whole different direction, but this young lady who I happen to have the pleasure of interviewing just rocked my world and blew my mind. I had to go in a whole different direction. So just work with me. So again, I don't think it's enough for me to just tell you about the Speak Black Women podcast. I'm going to show you a little bit more about who I am and how I serve. And then when we come on back, we're going to have our very special guest, Miss Deana Jean. So again, my name is Quinn Conyers and I broadcast the brilliance of Black women in business. I show you how to maximize and monetize all speaking opportunities on behalf of your business, your book, or your brand. But with the Speak Black Women podcast, I like to introduce to some and really remind others on some of the brilliant Black women who are out here who are doing their thing. So today's guest is Miss Deana Jean. And let me tell you something. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I said this in the beginning of it. I had a whole agenda, but sometimes somebody sideswipes you. And y'all know this, I am happily married. However, I told her I was about to propose and get down on one knee. So today we're literally going to talk about not only how to make authentic connections. I want to actually go a little bit deeper on talking to people about how to make, meaningful connections beyond Clubhouse. And the reason why I'm going in this direction is because Clubhouse is a new app that is just exploding and so many people are meeting and connecting. And there are some people who are having just kind of artificial surface relationships. And there are people really masterminding, building friendships and collaborations on this app. And I want to talk to Deana about this because I think she's doing this so brilliantly because she got my attention to the point where I was speechless. I'm a speaker, y'all. Ain't gonna get me speechless. So the lovely soul that you see on my right literally is Miss Deana Jean. And for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, who is she? She's absolutely amazing. I know, I told you, I go far and high to find the best people. But she has actually spent the better part of her career mastering the role of both sales and leadership. And she's been successful in the front line of really working with people in companies, several fast-paced companies. And now she is the CEO and founder of International Excellence Consulting, LLC, which is a personal success program for business leaders and modern entrepreneurs. We're going to learn a little bit more about that. But at first, I just want to say, welcome to the Speak Black Women podcast.
Hey, listen, Quinn, I am so excited to be here. I cannot tell you, this is going to be an amazing conversation and I can't wait to get started.
So I'm going to dive right on in because I believe that the Clubhouse app has literally been a blessing for a lot of people to connect with people really who are like-minded. Like if you're going to certain rooms, there is a synergy and an alignment. And I think that some people are trying to figure it out. Some people have completely jumped in. And I think that you have some really secret sauce. How have you uniquely stood out on this app? I mean, I can go down and run the whole things on why you're unique and special, but how do you think that you are cutting through some of the noise and building authentic conversations and connections with people on this Clubhouse app?
Well, that's a great question. So I will preface this by saying I just got on to Clubhouse in this past May. I got on Clubhouse this past May, and Clubhouse had been out for almost a year prior to me getting on, but I am a proud Android user. I've always had an Android.
We ain't gonna hold that against her.
Don't be laughing, right? And I saw the fact that this was iPhone only, Apple only, as a sign to me that I needed to hold off. I've always been the type of person where when people are going to right, I am looking for the treasure in the left, right? Because something's got to be over there. So I waited until, first of all, they were available to Android. But secondly, I waited to see how others were engaging with the app, what their positive experiences were, what their challenging experiences were. And people were constantly saying, Deana, you got to get on this app, buy an iPad, do this, do this. And I was like, listen, I need to go in with intention. So when I went in May, I had specific intention about the way that I wanted to use the app. I wanted to use it in 3 ways. The first way is that I wanted to be able to use it to better understand what my ideal client, which are high achieving women executives and women entrepreneurs, what they need. The second thing is that I wanted to be able to ensure that even in doing that, that I had an opportunity to build some collaboration opportunities, strong collaborations. And that's where this came in. So the first thing that I did to stand out in that way is I made it a point to get on stages. From the very beginning, I realized that the people who were on stages, the people who were followed by the speakers, those were the people who were really being able to drop the value, to get the followers, but most importantly, to be seen by others as experts in their area. So I started by getting onto stages, and then I created a strategy to ensure that when I got off of the stages, that there was a follow-up. It's super simple. The fortune in the follow-up. How could I make myself stand out from that person after they had seen me on stage? How could I add value to them? So those were like the core things. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people, first of all, don't make themselves stand out. They're intimidated to get up on stage. They're intimidated to talk about the things that they know and that they do and their area of expertise, especially a lot of women who should be talking about what they're doing, specifically a lot of Black women who should be talking even more about what we're doing. But then the second part is that they're not following up. People will see you on the app, they'll hype you up, and then they won't take it to Insta. But then the third thing is, if they do follow up, they are not following up in a way that distinguishes them. They're not following up in a way that shows you how they can add value. So those are like the main things that I did.
Simple yet so profound. I mean, like I said, you know, and again, like I definitely was like a little turned on when I got like, you know, after we connected on the Clubhouse app and you sent me a voice note, you know, that was like, okay, you know, I've done a few of that, but not just the degree of the connection. So you talked about, you know, being intentional, like you almost had a game plan, you had a strategy. You know, when it comes to Clubhouse, a lot of people, like you said, they stay in the followed by, or they stay in what I call the listening lounge. You know, why do you think right now, especially like with, again, I'm going to take this on Clubhouse, why should people be deliberate and more intentional? Why not just hang out in the listening lounge and get some nuggets and get some tips and tools? Why is it important for you to raise your hand, get on that stage, share your thought leadership, share your perspective? Because people might think, well, maybe it's not worth it, but absolutely it is. Like, I mean, the app has done wonders for me, but I'm loving how you are just organically making it your own. So for the people who are listening, like, yeah, I mean, I got Clubhouse, I'm not on it like that. I listen here and there. Right. So what would you say, or do they need to, you know, especially as a Black woman in business, because that's who I serve, is it time to raise their hand and move from the listening lounge? You move from the followed by speakers right on up to the main stage. What do you think?
Absolutely. I believe it 100%. So first of all, I feel like a lot of times, even if we don't acknowledge it and if we don't identify it, the thing that keeps us in the listening lounge under the followed by speakers, right, in the others section, which is fine, you're in the room, right? But in the others section, it comes down to fear. A lot of times we are so fearful. And most of the time, the thing that we are fearful of are the ideas that we create in our minds about what will happen when we raise our hand. We won't be able to be pulled up on stage. We'll get up to stage and we will fumble our words. We'll get up to stage and someone will have a contrarian view to something that we say and make us look like we are not as valuable or like we don't understand as much as we do. What I say to that is, guess what? That is a life. That is a life. But when you raise your hand, this is on Clubhouse, this is in life. What you're doing is you are putting yourself in a position to, first of all, get into action. The opposite of fear is not bravery. The opposite of fear is actually action. Just by you raising your hand, you are actually diminishing the limiting beliefs in your head that have kept you in the listening lounge. A lot of the times, the reasons that we're in the listening lounge is because we fear the no. We fear somebody rejecting us. We fear the no. But what we don't realize is that we are actually saying no to ourselves before we give our people an opportunity to say no to us. So what I say is, if you know that you can add value, and if you're in the room, that means that you have value to add. Even if you don't realize it, you're in the room, you have value to add, raise your hand get up on stage. Not only is it going to give you the opportunity for your voice to be heard, but you are going to be closer to the conversation. You are going to be closer to the learning. And at the end of the day, if you are not leaning into the learning, you are not growing. So get on stage, raise your hand, get closer to the learning, get into action, and that will diminish your fear.
No, I love that. And, it's interesting because I want to know, did you wake up like this or did you work for this? And the reason why I say that is because I, work with a lot of Black women, and some of them have always been vocal all their life. And then some people had to find their voice along the way. So I know I'm meeting you now, but have you always been raising your hand to speak on stages, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, or was there something in your journey that you got unmuted or you got your voice back? I would love to know that, because I love to connect with women who are like us, they're like disruptors. If I got something to say, I'm gonna raise my hand. I don't care less. I'm always telling people not to use the word help. I'll be disrupting stuff. I'll be having people pull their edges, clutch pearls. I'm okay with that because I know that that's part of my personality. But some people had to lean into their voice. Some people just got their voice. So tell me about you. Were you always this, or did you work for this?
So this is such a great question. And I think that I can say both. I could literally write a book about getting to this point, right? About all of the things from my childhood, school, family things, whatever it may be that kind of brought me here. What I will say is that I always was in a position where my voice was nurtured. I always knew that what I had to say was valuable. And that was something that was instilled in me from very, very young. And it started with, the way that I engaged with my family as the oldest child and grandchild of many, right? And then it went on to the types of educational opportunities that I had, where I was just always empowered to use my voice. Here's the thing, though. It wasn't until I actually went away to high school, right? I went to a prep school and earned a scholarship to go away to a prep school in Connecticut. It wasn't until I went there that I actually realized how powerful my voice was in the sea of all voices. I grew up in Brooklyn, right? In the Bushwick area of Brooklyn. So if you know Bushwick, the old not the Bushwick of 2021, but the 1980s Bushwick and the 1990s Bushwick, very, very heavily populated by working class families, African-American families that have migrated from the South, a lot of Caribbean families, a lot of Puerto Rican and Dominican families. And my voice was always really valued there. But then when I actually transitioned to a place where I was almost the only, right? Very, very limited number of us as young Black women, I realized that I diminished my own voice, right? I felt like, you know what? My voice is really, really loud when I'm around these people that I know value what I have to say. But now I'm in a situation where, these people have been trained all their lives to be leaders in all areas. And when I went there, I was encouraged to use my voice. I was encouraged to raise my hand. And I remember they were doing some type of student council thing. And my English teacher, she was like, "Are you going to run for student council?" And I was like, "No, I would never do that." She's like, "Deana, use your voice. Use your voice." And I remember being the first person to volunteer to go up and to give my speech. No one else wanted to do theirs. I remember going up and giving my speech. And that was the first time ever that I received a standing ovation.
Wow.
From a group of people who were my peers, but were different than I was. And that was the moment that I realized that my voice mattered, that my voice counted, and that what I had to say was truly important. And I took that the rest of my life. And I've just continued to raise my hand in rooms where others are scared to. And it served me well.
Yes, it did, sis. It absolutely served you well. And I love your transparency. And a lot of times we are comfortable or maybe confident. And I'm just want to applaud where you grew up, that your voice was nurtured. That's not everybody's reality. Yeah. The majority of the time when I talk to people about their voice and using it and leveraging it and being a speaker or a messenger or an orator, however way that people want to identify, that's not their scenario. A lot of times they've been told to be seen but not heard. A lot of times they've been told, don't speak unless spoken to, or what they had to say, stay in a child's place. So the fact that your voice was nurtured, I just love the fact that we can even have that conversation, because I don't know too many people who can even say that. So that's amazing. So yeah, kudos to you. And yes, standing ovation. And I'm sure that when you got there, you were like, oh, all right.
I was like, oh, this is a thing. This is a thing. And then from that point on, I just made it a point to always sit in the front of the classroom, to always be the one to take the seat in the front,
Yes.
to raise my hand to volunteer first. I felt like when you go first, you're the act that everyone has to follow. So
Correct.
I was always the one in lecture halls where they're like, who wants to? I'm like, me, I'll do it first. And everybody's like, dang, Deana's going first. That's brave. I'm like, y'all don't realize I'm copping out because I want to set the bar. And then after that, I could chill.
No, I love it. Absolutely love it. So, and that's good. I swear, like I'm telling you, I told you I was loving up on her before we started this interview. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. I'm about to be a part of the family now, at the way she's going. So tell me about your company. Like we're talking about your voice, but what I love about you and why I asked you to be here is because, it doesn't stop with you, right? It doesn't stop with I'm using my voice. You are working with people on connections and collaborations and really being authentic about how they reach out. So tell me about the company you started and what was the inspiration for that? Because now it's not just about you. You are inspiring and motivating your tribe, your community. You are teaching other women, how to build and connect authentically and collaborate, which a lot of people are not doing it. They're like, oh, I figured out the secret sauce. Y'all can figure it out on your own.
Keep it, right?
Like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and teach other people to do what I'm doing.
Let's spread it. Listen, you said something on a Clubhouse stage a few days ago, Quinn.
What did I say, girl? What did I say?
Where you were saying, you were like, you know what? It does not serve me, and I am not content being the only one on the beach, right? With the Mai Tai and sipping the drinks and on vacation, right? I want to be able to be passing the Mai Tai over there. I want to be like, yeah, Deana gonna take some calamari. She's in the hot tub, whatever. That's really what's always been my inspiration. So the name of my company is Intentional Excellence Consulting LLC. And it was based off of the idea that I believe that when you have intention behind whatever it is that you do, whether it is building collaboration opportunities, whether it is building client-facing teams, whether it is building relationships, whether they be romantic or they be business relationships, when you start with intention, excellence is imminent. So I decided that at the end of 2019, after having had an extremely successful career in executive sales and coaching, that it was time for me to actually go out on my own and be able to write my own path. I was in a position where I was making mid six figures as a base salary. I had a 6-figure bonus. And growing up, like that was an outlier for my family. Again, I come from a very traditional, hardworking, working class family. My grandfather learned how to read when he was 65, when he actually had retired from New York City housing, because he was a maintenance person for New York City housing for many, many, many years, over 30 years. But even after that, he decided he wanted to learn how to read. My mom was an educator and she was also a banker. Right? My dad always worked 2-3 jobs. He worked in, he was a foreman. He did all these different things. So for me to be in a position where I was able to make 6 figures before I was 30 years old and be in mid 6 figures by 35, a lot of people in my family and in my circle were saying, you've made it, you've done it. And I was in a position where I said to myself, you know what? I want more. And I felt bad about that at first. I felt bad about that. But then I realized that it wasn't about me wanting more money, because if it was more money, I would have stayed where I was because I could have kept going. For me, it was more about impact. Regardless of how successful I was in those positions, I did not feel like I was really and truly leaning in to the gift that God gave me, which was to be able to help people find their gift. And so I decided that I was going to launch this business. I pivoted my W-2 role to a consulting role with the company. I did that in a 2-week period of time. And that's how I launched my consultancy. And it really is focused on helping organizations and women, right? Specifically Black and brown women business owners, to be able to find and elevate their voices and their businesses through connection, collaboration, and community. So that's what I do. I do that by helping and supporting women as far as consulting them on how to be able to build collaborative relationships and business models that allow for everyone to run faster and harder together, but also rise together. Then I work with organizations to determine how they can be more centered in focusing on the people so that the profits are imminent. So that's really what I do. And I love doing it. I love being able to help women who have been super, super successful realize that with collaboration, that success can be exponential with less stress, less work,
Ooh,
right?
that
Less
sounds
work.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that, I love the fact that I feel like the more you talk, the more we're aligned. I mean, like I said, I knew there was a couple things that you said that really got my attention. But, what I love about our generation, because I'm an 80s baby, I'm assuming that you're an 80s baby as well.
81, 81.
82, right? So we're right here in this same boat, right? So, wait, so if you were born in 81, this is a new decade for you. I
Girl,
love
look, that's a
this.
whole nother podcast. Yes.
A new decade for you. So, girl,
It
okay,
is.
hold on, let me pause that. So let's just say that because I'm ending a decade and I'm about to start a new decade. And what I love about what you said is there's something very magical about our generation that we are literally not intentionally but giving our parents a heart attack. Like when I literally was like telling my mom that I wasn't making six figures at my sales job. I was making $70,000 a year. But when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do full-time entrepreneurship. She was like, are you crazy? You have a bachelor's, you have a master's. Like, I mean, she was like, so let me get this straight, Quinn. People pay you to talk. And I'm like, yes, she just can't process, right? So I just want to say that I want to honor you for honoring your own voice. I want to honor you for saying yes to like that business, that idea that was like kind of rumbling around, because it's never like you should do it. It's almost like, it's a struggle because you're like, I am making good money. I am probably the chosen child of my generation. I am making in a year what it would take them 17 years to make. How dare I leave my comfort zone? I know, listen, my story, your story, right? How dare I leave? And it's hard to do that. There are so many people who are, I would say, financially soaring, but they are internally unfulfilled. And it is death by living, right? And you're like, I just need to go and leave. So I just wanted to applaud you. I wanted to applaud you for that because it's not easy to be young, to make that money and still decide to dive into your dreams and your purpose.
I got to tell you, for me, it probably never would have happened. I probably would have never had the push had it not been for what at the time felt like tragedy. Right. So I want to honor that. Yes, I'm here. We're doing it. It's not easy, but I'm loving it. But I had to get there by being at the lowest point ever. So I have 3 kids, right? I have a 12-year-old boy, I have a 10-year-old boy, and I have a 5-year-old baby girl. When I was pregnant with my daughter, which was a surprise, a welcome surprise, back in 2015, about 5 months into my pregnancy, I was actually diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer. And literally my world stopped. It stopped. And I was working for that company, and I have to say, they were tremendous. They were amazing. But, I had a lot of decisions I had to make when that diagnosis came to me. Just about everyone that I spoke to, including medical professionals, were telling me, you're going to have to terminate the pregnancy. We don't even know what's going to happen with you. You have to save yourself. Do your best to save yourself. And in my mind, I was prepared to do that if I knew that there were no other options. So I got into action. That's why it's so important for me to teach other women how to get into action. And I used and I leveraged my tribe. That's why tribe is so important to me. And within 48 hours of receiving that diagnosis, I had already had conversations with the medical directors of the 3 largest and most prominent cancer centers in the country. And a day later, I was sitting in the office of my oncologist, and she said to me, Deana, what you're going to do is going to be very, very difficult. But I want to make sure that you understand that it's doable, right? So we decided that we were going to do chemo while I was pregnant. And then we were going to deliver the baby early, which ended up turning into an emergency C-section, which we were trying to avoid. And then a week after the emergency C-section, they were wheeling me back into chemo for more chemo. And then I did surgery, and then I had daily radiation for 8 weeks. And then there were subsequent surgeries, right? At the same time, I was raising the boys. My husband was tremendous. He was amazing. But, my husband's military, and his family is family's from Haiti. He's born here, but he's a man's man. And this thing broke him down. Right? It broke him down. And it was interesting because even at that low point, what I realized when I was there and I was getting back up was the strength that is inside of me. Like, no one can touch that, right? This experience that I've had, there are not many people on earth that can say that they have had and endured and thrived through this experience, right? And my faith was there and all that. And then what happened was I went back to work and I felt like I was not in my purpose. I was like, I'm bigger than this.
Yes.
I should be doing more. That was the first time I realized that the value that I brought to whatever situation I was in, work, home, family, whatever, friendships, that was something that was intrinsic and organic to me, and that it was powerful, and that I could do literally absolutely anything if I put intention behind it, but most importantly, if I enacted my tribe. So that was the point. They say, God makes you feel, and I'm a person of faith, God puts you in, makes you feel uncomfortable in comfortable situations. It was like the bonuses and all that stuff that I made me feel comfortable before. I was feeling more uncomfortable because I'm like, all right, I'm getting a 20K bonus, but that was $1 million deal. I want the million, especially for the work and the effort that I put into the sacrifice. I'm traveling. My kids aren't seeing me as much as I want to. My husband's sacrificing. Yeah, this money is cool, but like that million came because of me. So that is actually what really fueled me to say, I'm going to step out. I'm going to plan. I'm going to enact my tribe, and I'm going to do something amazing. And as I'm doing it, I want to bring everybody with me. So that's the story.
Come on, pastor, deacon, evangelist, episcopal. Look, I'm trying to find other words. I love everything about that. I mean, like, I'm just thinking about how not only were you vulnerable and not only were you just real with it, but also understanding that sometimes the spaces that we are in and operating in, we realize through a divine God connection that we're bigger than that. And some people know that and are still scared to step out. Like, it's like you almost realize like your worth, your value. And, I just love everything about that. And you're right. Like, your perspective shifted. You're grateful for the 20,000, but then but I made the million. So why can I flip this and make the million? So listen, I love everything about it. I would love to have you back. It has come to that time where I need to wrap it up. I hate doing it sometimes, but listen, that was just absolutely amazing. So for people who are like, oh my gosh, she was absolutely amazing. How can people connect with you, after today's podcast?
Great. Well, thank you so much again for having me, Quinn. So there are a couple of different ways that people can connect with me. Again, I'm a consultant and I'm a speaker. If you want to engage with me and just tell me that you heard the podcast and you enjoyed it, or you want to be able to give me some feedback, then you can connect with me on Insta at Intentional Success Tribe, which is actually the name of my Facebook group. But I would love, if you heard something that was really impactful to you, I would love to see you inside of our Facebook group, the Intentional Success Tribe. That is the place where we go and we come together to be able to build partnership, collaboration opportunities. I'd love to just see you and hear more about you and hear more about what you're doing. And then, of course, you can catch me in the Clubhouse streets under Deana Jean. I would love to be able to just know that you heard this and that you got something from it. And if there's anything that I can do to be able to elevate any type of collaboration or partnership opportunity that you have coming up, I am always open to and excited to be able to make those types of connections.
See, y'all see me looking down because I'm enjoying in the intentional Clubhouse room right now. I mean, intentional on Facebook. I was like, oh, wait.
Intentional Success Tribe.
Listen, I love it. Thank you so much. Hang out for just a second.
Yeah.
I want you to hang out for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and close us out. Listen, y'all, I don't know about you, but I'm on the app right now, going to Facebook. I really don't take for granted that when people give me their yes. And I just appreciate Deana for really coming on, being transparent, but also she's doing something that I did talk about in Clubhouse. we as Black women, we don't want to be successful. We want to be successful and surrounded, not successful and solo. So yes, I want to make the millions, but I want to do it with a husband. I want to do it with my children. I want to do it with my girl gang, my tribe. And that's why I was getting so excited, because some people are willing to do all of this and be alone. And that's not the way that we want to do it. So again, if you enjoyed this Speak Black Woman podcast, number one, make sure you go ahead and leave us a review. Also go to speakblackwoman.com to learn and listen to some of our past episodes, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can always binge watch the past Speak Black Woman, podcasts. So again, my name is Quinn Conyers. I appreciate you tuning into the Speak Black Woman podcast. What we do is we amplify, we illuminate, and we highlight the voices of Black women in business who are also passionate about making a profit from public speaking. Until next time, make sure that you continue to serve and lean in every aspect of your voice. I'll talk to you.